εγώ είμαι Θεός, ο πριν και έστω το παν, και πρωτοστήνε την γη και των ουρανών, κοινώς κον τα πάντα, ως όρος Πατρί και όρθερον εν ήμι.
Δόξα σοι ο Θεός ημών, δόξα σοι, λόγος συνέστησαν των ουρανών αματική, συνείδηνα το Πατρί και διαλόγου φέρω το όδετο παν, ο λόγος σοφία και δύναμις και οίκων και συνεργός και ισουργός.
Δόξα σοι ο Θεός ημών, δόξα σοι.
Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, and I am doing my report for the end of what I believe is the 6th day of my Cyprus trip. Not really sure about the counting there, but what I do know is that if you are Orthodox Christian, it is, or it was yesterday, we've now slipped over into the early hours of the day after, but it was Easter Saturday, so now it's Easter Sunday. And so the first thing I should say is Christos Anέστη, which means Christ is risen. And I guess that's the main thing that we've done today, is just this second comeback from church. And indeed, the church is still going on. We've been in there for 3 hours. The Orthodox are not known for their brevity. Been to Larnaca Cathedral, which is an incredible church. We went this morning, actually. It was the first place we went. And it's I think the main body of the church is 7th or 8th century, so it's really old, and it's got this really earthy and solid feel to it, but it's lasted the ages, although there is a 19th century bell tower on it, which is actually quite pretty, and I think it's a 17th century or 18th century kind of I don't know what you would call it, like a kind of colonnade at the side. But yeah, the main church is 7th or 8th century, and we've been there for the traditional Orthodox Easter Mass. The church itself, or Larnaca Cathedral, is famous because it is the Cathedral of St. Lazarus. And Lazarus, if you've read the Bible, is famous for being the guy who died twice. So he died and Christ brought him back to life after 4 days, I think it was. And then he went on and apparently he became the first Bishop of Larnaca. So there we are. Tough act to follow. The guy that is the current bishop, just seen him, and he seems to be following it. He was pretty passive in the whole thing. He sat there like a wax statue for much of it, for all of it really, but you know, that's his job, I guess. And I suppose if I were to give my reflections on the Orthodox Mass, perhaps if you're coming from a Western tradition, be it Catholic or Protestant, the main difference is how passive the congregation are. They may as well not be there. It is all done by the clergy and also the choir, the cantors who sing. So it's very much you observe and you meditate throughout. And that's about it. Some people stand up and cross at certain places. Some people mill in and out. It's not like a Catholic service where, you know, you have to be there on time and you have to leave on time. It's much freer than that. So there we are. What else have I done today? Well, we got up, we had a breakfast, and then we did go to the church, but actually before that we went to Larnaca Castle. It's not really a castle, it's more of a fort. It's an Ottoman fort, but built on the ruins of a 14th century Frankish fort. Not the world's greatest castle, if we're honest, not very big at all. Don't think it ever saw a battle. But there were some interesting carved gravestones in there. There was some medieval cannon, some good views from the top. There was also some early 20th century German artillery, which we, got myself and Alex to say, well, how did they end up there? Were they pieces from World War One that, the British thought, oh, we'll use them in a colony somewhere, or, were they pre-World War One and someone was flogging them cheap? who knows? But yeah, there we are. We meant to go to a Byzantine museum today. It was shut. And we also tried to go to an archaeological museum today. It was shut. And there was a third museum that was shut. And that, of course, is all to do with Easter. We did see an Armenian genocide monument, which, to be honest, was a bit too abstract for me, but, you know, they made an effort. And then we went on a little expedition. We took a bus to the airport because near the airport by a salt lake is a very famous mosque. And it's the mosque. Let's see if I can remember the name. Wait a second. It's the Hala Sultan Tekke Mosque, and Hala Sultan was a milk sister of the Prophet Muhammad's mum. So what that means is they weren't blood relatives, but they had the same wet nurse or something, and she became a companion of the Prophet and followed him to Cyprus and died. Now, some people reckon it's one of the holiest places in Islam. I don't know, you know, not being a Muslim, but I guess she's pretty famous, and it is an absolutely delightful place. Actually, the walk approaching was really nice because it looked like some kind of vision from the desert, surrounded by palms by this salt lake. And then when we got there, it was a really peaceful place. I mean, unfortunately, like all mosques, apart from those in perhaps Iran or Uzbekistan, the interior is a bit disappointing because it's a bit plain. Like they are a bit like the Protestants with that. They like to whitewash everything, and they have this really strange issue with images that they, yeah, well, doesn't accord to my tastes, shall we say. But you know, it was a very peaceful and cool place in the midday sun, and the tomb of Hala Sultan was next to it, so paid our respects there, and then walked back around the other side of the Salt Lake home. That was Alex's idea. Not the most successful he's ever had. It was a little longer than we thought, and we got a bit lost. We ended up on a headland and had to retrace our steps. It was quite pretty, although a bit smelly. Salt Lake smelled a bit fishy, really, and it was rather hot, and we'd forgot to bring water. So, but that wasn't the real disaster. The real disaster is when we actually got to the town, and as if from God, there was an ice cream van there, so that was very nice. But I had a nice orange ice cream. But then it turned out he'd forgot his camera. He'd lost it somewhere on the way. So we're going to go and have a look tomorrow, see if we can find it. But Alex lost his camera, and in the end we got a taxi from the edge of town back into the centre. And that's about it, really. We had a nice seafood meal on the front, different restaurant than before, and then it was Mass. And that is Larnaca. It's a pleasant, I mean, it is a bit of a holiday resort, but it seems to be nicer than most. It's a pleasant place. The church is fantastic. And there are nice views across the sea, but there's not a great deal here. And tomorrow we've got a car, and we're going to be going around to some of the sites in the area, including a monastery that I'm really excited about seeing. And then I'm going to meet up with somebody who I think they've got a second home here. Certainly they've been here for the last 3 months, so they must be doing something right. So that's it from me. Hope you're enjoying it, and keep travelling.
Είδετε ότι εγώ είμαι Θεός, ο πριν γενέσω το παν, και προτουστήνε την γη και των ουρανών, κοινώς κον τα πάντα.